Welcome back to SEXPLOSION with me, Dr. Raj, your sexologist, the guru of sex from Trinidad. These programs are very important. We have had persons contacting us based on the past episodes, and that is something that I want. I want that interaction from you. I want you to ask questions. I want you to be part and parcel of the program. This is very important so that we can get that information out there. Local audience, regional audience, international audience, it does not matter because sex is universal. Everyone has a question when it comes to their sexuality, their sexual behavior, their sexual wants and needs. So I am here to address those things. This is not me being the professional Dr. Raj, where you come and see me as a client. This is me interacting with you, the audience, the global audience, to get that information out to you so that you can respond to me. Tell me what you want to hear. Tell me what the things that you want to see, what you want to find out about. Of course, we're in our beautiful studio. This is the museum also. You have different things. You have ancient depiction of sex. You have taboo of sex, sex and technology, artifacts related to sex, memorabilia, all these different things that pertains to sex and sexual health, sexual information. Now, this program especially is important for those of you who may have a topic that is not touched upon. It is a topic that is not discussed. And the reason I say that is this young lady approached me and she told me she wanted to be on this program. Again, because of the ads that we have outside here, that we're looking for persons to come and be a co-host, be a host, be someone sitting in on the program, asking questions, wanting information or giving information. Because I'll tell you something. I started off in sexology when I was in my early teen years. And this is serious. My early teen years or pre-teen years, I knew I wanted to do something when it comes to sexual education on sex. Why? I don't know. It was just that something that came to me. And I remember the exact day that it came to me and where I was and what I was doing. That aside, I decided to study sex. So I went to the libraries, I went to different areas. I went to my school library, Northeastern College in Sangre Grande, and I got books and I started to read and I realized there's a wealth of knowledge out there that no one teaches you. You don't get this information from anybody. So when I started to read, and the more I read, I realized there's so much more information out there. Of course, I couldn't go to the public library and get information because all the sexual information was under 18 years and over. So I had friends who were older than me and I would ask them to borrow books and I would read those books. They didn't even bother to read it because to them it was not something that was important or necessary. But to me, it was very important. I wanted that information. I wanted to know what's happening out there. I started to study sex when I was at high school and I continued to do that while I was in university. I was not a doctor then. I didn't do my PhD. I was doing my first degree, but I continued to study sex. And there's a lot of stories in that. And I can share those stories with you as time go by. But when I came back to Trinidad, I couldn't go out there and do anything with sex and sexology. As a matter of fact, the terminology sexology only came about in the late 90s. There was no profession called a sexologist. And I want you all to understand that. But I was studying to become a sexologist, even though there was no profession called a sexologist. So that's something that I think I was very innovative when it comes to that. Even when I wrote my university and tell them I wanted to do a PhD in sexology, there was no such course. So that's another long story. But the fact of the matter is I am here today to share with you this information. I've been doing that live on the air for 35 years. I was on radio, television, wrote newspaper articles, I was interviewed, all these things. I did seminars, lectures, you name it, I did it when it comes to sex. And I continue to do that because I think it's very important. Now there's a generation or two out there who knows of me, the older generation. They know of me, they know what I'm capable of, they know what I do. And there are many things that people would say that are disparaging and other things, but they don't know me personally. So some persons put a tag to my name, but that's okay. Because with everything, there must be controversy. But I deal with the most controversial of topics, which is sex and sexology. But you'll never find me in anything that is controversial. And that's something also you should also look at and say, well, this man dealing with sex, and you don't hear him in any charges or anything brought against him. What is he doing that is so right? There are persons from all walks of life who've come to me to share information with me, and they know it is a secret. I do not share it with others, not even your spouse. I would not do that because you believe in me and you trust me. Having said that, it's important for me to get accurate, truthful information out there. Why? Because you deserve that and nothing less as a person. You deserve to hear the truth, and you deserve to know the things that are pertinent to you and that is going to help you in the long run. That's what I believe in. So, as a sexologist, as someone who is trained as a sexologist, I'm the only qualified sexologist in the Caribbean, and I take my job very seriously. I'm happy when people reach out to me and they're able to share things with me, and some of the things are very taboo, very controversial. Some of the things may make you cringe if you hear it. But I don't judge anyone. It's not my duty to judge anyone. My job is to hear what you're saying, listen to you, and in the long run, help you along. Find a solution for you, your problems. Some of you may have an addiction. Find a solution for that addiction. That's my professional life. On radio, television, and social media, my job is to put that information out there so that you can take that information, absorb what is relevant to you, and use it to make you a better person sexually. So I was telling you, when I started to study sex and sexology, there are persons who will meet me and say, you can't teach me nothing about sex, I know everything. You know what I would say? I bow to you. Because I have been studying sex for over 40 years of my life, and I still don't know everything. There are topics out there that I have not touched yet. Or maybe I touched it just at the surface, but it's deeper underneath. There are persons out there who are experiencing things in their lives that I have never experienced. And they want to share that with the world. They want to tell others about those things. So I give them the opportunity to do that, to come here in the studio and talk to me about it. So with that, having said that, I would like to thank this young lady, Josie, who has reached out to me and who is in our studios today to expound on her experiences. Welcome, Josie.
Thanks for having me. Fine, thank you.
It's my pleasure to have you here.
Okay.
The reason for that, when you reached out to me and you told me of your experiences, and I must say it's unique to you and to the audience out there. Why I say that is because you don't hear that topic being discussed in any forum, and you'll agree with me with that.
True.
Right? It's a taboo topic, and it's something that people like to brush aside, sweep it under the carpet, and hope that it disappear. And we don't have to address it. But there are young men and women in Trinidad, Tobago, the Caribbean, and the wider world who have those experiences, who have that happening to them, and there's no one to talk to about it. There's no one who can understand what they're going through. Now, I'll tell you, I don't want to go into the topic yet, because I want you to be so comfortable that when you're talking to me, you're able to talk to me like when you're in the office and telling me everything. So let's get to the comfort part of it.
Right.
But I'll just want to give you some information. What you told me at that meeting was told to me many, many years ago, maybe about 20, 25 years ago. Someone came to me with the very same issue. And I did a radio program on that. I'm trying to get it right now, on that topic. And that topic went on maybe for 1 month. It was addressed on the radio, but not in depth, because the person wasn't willing to speak on the radio. They wasn't willing to speak about it. They were just talking to me, and I will relay the information out there. So I must thank you for being brave enough to come and sit in a studio and have that discussion with me.
You're welcome. I'm doing it for others like me.
I realize that, and I appreciate your enthusiasm to come here and do that. I really appreciate that, because it's not something that is easy for anyone to discuss. Because people are judgmental. They will tend to want to judge you based on what they hear about you, and they misinterpret information also. Because they may think, you remember you were telling me a story about this one guy who had this additional part of him.
Yes.
And he was raped because of that.
Yes.
And those are the things that we face in society, because people just don't understand that these things are happening and you need to address it. I have had parents bring their children to me, and I'm talking about children who are under the age of 18, in their school uniform. Parents are devoted to their religion and whatnot, and they will come and say, Dr. Raj, could you please talk to my daughter about this, what she has done, expose herself to her friends, take out photographs and things like that. Now that's just scratching the surface. Those are the things that happen every single day in schools.
Yes.
Every single day there's a young lady who's exposing herself. There's somebody who's doing something that is a deviant sexual behavior, and it has to be addressed at the school level. Now, from a professional point of view, I don't think we're doing enough to address those things. And that's my professional opinion, but it's my opinion. What the authorities need to do when it comes to those type of topics is to get somebody who has the expertise in it to address it, to deal with those issues. And I may be right, I may be wrong, I don't know. But what I do know, there's a lack of information, a lack of education when it comes to one's sexuality, one's sexual behavior, one's sexual needs and wants. And I strongly believe that. So it's important for me to get that information out there, and with persons like you who wants to reach out to me, to come in the studio, discuss things and say, okay, let's get that information out there. Let's let the people know.
Yes, let's get the people to understand.
Good. So you get the people to understand through me right now, starting with what you want to talk about, just basically.
Okay. I want to talk about hermaphrodism. All right? A lot of people don't understand themselves as male versus female.
Hermaphrodites are persons who have both male and female genitalia, male and female body parts, and they behave in a particular way. This is not transgender. This is not somebody who identifies as a woman or identifies as a man. This is hermaphrodism, being a hermaphrodite. So let's continue.
Right. So as it stands in our culture, as Trinidadians, we have an amalgamation of different cultures, races, class. And within all strata, the topic sex and sexuality, sexual orientations, those three, it's a big taboo. Parents don't really put their children, sit down and counsel them and speak with them on these things. Teachers.
Stop to think that maybe the teachers and the parents don't have enough information?
Perhaps, or there's something that blocks them from freely talking about it, without religion, social thinking. Yeah. There's some culture, if a child knows too much about sex, you think that it's a bad child or they're too rude.
Correct.
And you start treating the child badly, thinking it's for a bad, Right.
Sometimes you want to punish the child because they ask a sexual question.
Right. And all of these things. So it's something that naturally male, female have these issues. And in our culture, I mean, with Hinduism and stuff like that, we don't talk about that. That is totally unacceptable if you even talk or dress sexually.
Let me stick a pin there.
Christianity?
Let me stick a pin there and address that what you said about Hinduism. I'm a Sanatanist. And in the Hindu religion, it's the only religion that has given the world 3 books on sex. Only religion. Wait.
Okay.
Sex was very openly discussed in India prior to the Mughal invasion and the British invasion.
Okay.
Sex was a topic that you could easily talk about. People had no hang-ups about sex and sexuality and sexual behavior. Whether you were gay, lesbian, all those things were accepted. As a matter of fact, our first representation of the Lord Shiva is both male and female, hermaphrodite.
Right.
So it is part of our culture, but because we were subjugated by the Muslims and subjugated by the British and Christianity and Victorian era, it became a taboo subject. So don't think that in Hinduism it is not open, because because we came under the British rule.
Right.
So we have the Ananga Ranga, we have the Koka Sastra, and we have, of course, the world famous Kama Sutra, which people misinterpret. Go ahead.
Right. So because of that, we don't talk it, we don't dress, inappropriately and all of that. If you do, you're looked at as a sex symbol, you're looked at someone to attack. Right. So
all in negative words.
Correct. So people who have both male and female genitalia, obviously your hormones, you will be attracted to female things and male things.
Correct.
Does that make you gay? Does that make you a lesbian?
It does not.
Make you a homosexual?
It does not.
Right. So all of these are issues that people would, especially children growing, would be confused about. And it's not discussed on the school curriculum. It's not discussed in anything except for programs such as yours. Right? So how do we help children to understand hermaphrodism, how to contain themselves? Because I've had situations where people have been calling people freaks.
Yes, that's another terminology.
Right, the children are afraid of who they are, right? They are afraid to go on the beach, to put on clothes, to express themselves in any activity, sports even, because obviously when you're playing tennis, volleyball, you dress down, right? So they are afraid to express themselves in anything. So do you stifle a segment of society because of their genetic makeup or their physical makeup, right? So my question is, how do we treat with children, teenagers who are hermaphrodites?
Okay. Do you know what is Ada Ishwara?
No, I'm not familiar.
If you look there, you'll see Lord Shiva in both male and female form.
Okay.
He's both male and female. That, a lot of Hindus pray to that. The devotion is to that because they understand that sexuality. And that's the beginning of the universe. In Hinduism, that's the beginning of the universe. That's how the universe came about.
Okay.
So that's why that section there, ancient depiction of sexual things, you'll see that there. You'll see the Koka Satra, you'll see Tantric Yoga, all those things. And if one takes the time as a Sanatanist, as a Hindu, if one takes the time as a human being to understand things of a sexual nature, you start there.
Okay.
And you understand you cannot call somebody a freak because they look like that. Because that's what we pray to.
I hear you. But
Right.
what would you tell a Christian or a Muslim person?
Well, Christianity has a beginning. Islam has a beginning. Hinduism doesn't have a beginning. That's in time immemorial. Go back past the beginning of your religion and delve into the information that came before that. It makes you open-minded. It makes you a better person to understand the way of life. Not only when it comes to sexual things, other things. But we're not here to discuss religion. But I wanted people to understand that you cannot call a person a freak for their sexuality. You cannot call them perverted because of their sexuality and sexual preference.
Or in this case, their genetic.
Their genetic makeup. Exactly. It is your genetical makeup. And if that's your genetical makeup, if you are a hermaphrodite, you have to embrace that. But of course, if you were subjugated with wrong words, if you are told that you're a freak, you're nasty, oh God, something wrong with you, cut off that thing and whatnot, you're messing with the psyche of the individual. And this is where we fail as a nation. This is where we fail as a people. This is where we fail as a parent, when we start putting labels on our children.
Correct, and it's a new form of segregation, discrimination.
Yeah. Well, that
You need to understand and respect, that you can't just go about calling people's names like that.
Try to understand what they're going through. Now, thank God for persons who are hermaphrodite. They remain in the background. They don't project a particular image. So it's something that is kept under wrap.
Because, okay, when I was going to school, there was an issue. A girl was reported to be a hermaphrodite, and she was one of the girls on the girls' sports team.
Right.
There was a big issue that because she's a hermaphrodite, she's part male and she's on the girls' team. They examined and found that there wasn't enough to call her a boy.
Right.
So they allowed her to be on the girls' team. A boy steps forward, and it's explained that internally he has a womb. Right? Does he get the opportunity to play on the girls' team, or because he has a womb, or is he someone who gets to play on the boys' team?
Now, these are actual things that happen.
Right.
The average Trinidadian or the average person out there don't know this is happening in our school system.
No, they don't.
They don't know that these things are challenges that people face.
Right.
And this is what we have to bring forward. There are persons out there who have those challenges, who have to deal with that.
Correct.
Where are they going to go to get that help? Let's give them that help. We're doing it.
Correct.
We're trying to tell you, hey, you're normal. Let's deal with it. Let's see how we can normalize you as a person. Of course, you're going to have sexual feelings also.
Correct.
And that's another thing. You may have earlier sexual feelings than the average person because you have two sets of raging hormones in your body.
Correct.
So what are you going to do? Now, we are hormone driven. So I'll tell you something. I was going to this conference in San Francisco many years ago, and the plane was passing through Dallas. So the person who came on board and sat next to me, he was a doctor, endocrinologist. And we were talking because we were going to the same conference. And he said, Dr. Raj, I have something to tell you. I said, what? He said, long ago, a girl will go from adolescence into puberty when we know around 11 to 13. She'll start seeing a period. He said, but do you know, in Dallas, we're finding girls who are 7, 8, 9 years of age having their period? And this was about 20 years ago. So at that time, there were girls who were having early period.
Correct.
But
and
we didn't know about that.
True. It's linked to the foods that they eat and sometimes early sexual activities.
Well, we know about early sexual activities, but let's not go there. Let's link it to the food before we do that. Many of our foods are GMO, genetically modified foods.
Correct.
Many of our foods are injected with hormones, especially chicken.
Yes.
Those hormones that you put in the food will cause a change in the human being. And if you have young ladies consuming a lot more chicken in all form and fashion, you're putting more hormones into their body. And you're going to have a revolution taking place within the body.
Correct.
And an evolution with that. Same thing with male. If the hormones that are injected into the birds are more female hormones for growth and development.
Yes.
When a male consumes all that hormones, you know what happens to it? I have had persons bring their young sons to me and nephews and whatnot. And this is the size of their penis at 14 years of age. That is the size. Okay. There's no testicles.
Oh.
I'm serious. There's a hole where the penis is supposed to be that looks like a vagina, and you have to actually pull back the foreskin to urinate.
Okay.
And it's a frightening thing. When you see that and you understand what is happening to the genetical makeup of human beings, male and female, it's frightening because there will come a time that you'll have people getting married and they cannot procreate.
Correct. Or it would be exceedingly difficult. We need the manpower doctors to be able.
You need to reverse it. Some persons are forced into thinking that I have to mutilate my child. Mutilate my child in order for he or she to be a natural male or a natural female. Because that's their thinking and that is what they're being fed. As opposed to there are ways to reverse certain things. Let's use those natural ways to reverse things and make things better. Before we go into the mutilation of the child. But having said that, sexual orientation also comes about from the way you are groomed.
Correct.
You have grooming also. You have grooming by peers. You have grooming by adults. And you have persons who groom themselves. That's something we don't address. Because if you have a young man or a young lady having sexual feelings, they will go and search all those things, especially now that it's easily available in your palm through a phone, and find things. If you type in the word hermaphrodite, you know the first thing that comes up? Porn about hermaphrodites.
Yes.
Not information.
Correct.
So he or she or the person who is going through this transition within themselves of being a hermaphrodite sees a porn with hermaphrodism, and all of a sudden they start masturbating to that or feeling for that. So they're grooming themselves. Right. It's the same thing as a premature ejaculator. And I have to say this. A premature ejaculation is someone who conditions themselves to ejaculate quickly, you know. Oh. Because as a teen, as a youth, you're taught that you shouldn't touch yourself. You shouldn't masturbate. So the guys who have the feeling, and every young guy has this feeling, they touch their penis and they get to the sweet sensation and they want to masturbate, but they want to do it as quickly as possible because they don't want to be caught. They don't want to be caught because they'll be punished. Correct. And they'll be called a freak or they'll be called nasty names because they're masturbating. So they do it as quickly as possible, they ejaculate and that's it. So when you continuously do that, what you're doing, conditioning your body to ejaculate very quickly. The girl who have this feeling for sex and she go and she froth, she's rubbing her vagina on a teddy bear or a pillow. She's doing it as quickly as possible to get over it.
True.
So when she gets into a sexual situation as an adult now, that's the only thing she knows. That's the grooming. She has groomed herself. Do we talk about self-grooming? No. It's a topic that we just throw under the bus and we say, leave that alone. We don't want to even discuss that. But there is self-grooming, there's grooming by peers, and there's grooming by adults.
In the case of a hermaphrodite who masturbates, remember you're both male and you're both female, psychologically, emotionally, would you be falling in love with yourself?
Yes, that is possible.
A relationship difficult because you love everything of yourself?
That is very possible.
It's another emotion.
It's another emotional roller coaster that you go on because you realize you can get self-manipulation, self-satisfaction from both organs. You have a vagina, you have a penis, or you have what is the beginning of a penis. Because when you look at the fetus forming in the womb, when the sex is being determined, and this is where the changes take place or non-changes take place, because what is supposed to be the scrotum, the sac of the scrotum, becomes the labia, the lips of the vagina. What is supposed to be the penis becomes the clitoris. That's why the clitoris is so sensitive to touch. It has a lot of nerve ending in this small area, as opposed to the penis head, which is this size, have the same amount of nerve ending. So this is much more sensitive than the head of the penis.
Okay.
So all these factors have to be taken into consideration as a sexologist. Biologically, we have to understand that these are the physical changes that happen to this young woman or this young man.
Correct. And as you're describing the human body, it comes to mind when a child or a teenager is in school and they have to interact with other students and that genitalia is rubbing against their clothes.
Their clothes, yeah.
It will bring them to a sense of arousal. And how do they control themselves, interact, get the word correct,
Yes, exactly, because you are now concentrating on that sensation that you have between your legs as opposed to what you're supposed to be distracted. Now, you made a point when we started off, and I have seen this for the last, as practicing sexology for the last 35 years in Trinidad, openly with people coming to me, trusting me, allowing me to do the examination and seeing it physically. Because we have the Douglas race, and I'm not putting down anybody, right? These are transitions that happen in any society, and I have no problem with it. In the Douglas race, you have a lot of women, more women, who have an extended clitoris. Now, there are 3 types of clitoris. A lot of people don't even know that. You have the clitoris that is embedded into you. You have to actually touch and feel and dig into the vagina, the top of the vagina, to feel it. You have what you call in the ring clitoris, which is right at the surface, and you just pull back the hood and you can see it and you can feel it and touch it. And then you have the extended clitoris, which is outside of the ring, that hangs like a little penis.
Okay.
And there are a lot more women who are Douglas, have extended clitoris.
Okay.
So they have more sensation from the vagina. And as you say, you wear something, you go and you gyrate, you whine, carnival time coming around, all of a sudden, your clitoris is like a little penis that is rubbing there, you get the sensation.
Right.
You become wet. You feel to have sex. So you are more easily aroused as opposed to the person who has an embedded clitoris. And that is also a challenge with couples. So let's say, for example, a man is accustomed with a woman with an in-the-ring clitoris. So if he's performing oral sex or doing whatever he's doing, he knows that he can touch the clitoris and he can take his tongue and flick it on the clitoris. All of a sudden, his wife has an embedded clitoris.
Okay.
So he started telling, what happened? I ain't satisfying you? Or like you don't feel me, or the other woman and them used to feel me, so you have a problem in the relationship. And then all of a sudden he gets a woman with an enlarged or engorged clitoris. And he's like, oh God, like you will have sex with me instead of having sex with you. Because he become intimidated by that.
Oh, okay. Different body types, different
Correct.
reactions.
When I did a program on the types of vaginas and clitoris, there's 52 varieties. 52 varieties of vaginas and clitoris and whatnot. We're not talking about size alone. We're talking about structure, the way it looks, the arousal of the vagina and all those things. So you see how complicated it can become for any person.
Yes.
But your situation is unique in terms of what you have gone through in life, the things that you have witnessed, the things that you have heard. And those things...
people were reaching out, you see. They wanted someone to understand. And as it stands, like I said, our health system, education system, it doesn't cater for such people. They're unique. And this is the 21st century, 2024. 2025, sorry. There should be some things out there in place to treat with people like that. And bringing it back to the foods, a lot of people's children are being born that way because of the foods that they're eating. And more
Correct.
as we grow,
You pass it on.
working, they need foods like that. They've become dependent on it. So how do you stop something that is actually going to be increased due to the increase for development needs and, growth and whatnot? People just simply can't stop now.
Well, I'll tell you something. When my son was in his preteen years and whatnot, I warned him. I said, I know you like chicken, but I would not want you eating a lot of white chicken. So we had a lot of common fowl and what you'll call free-range chicken. And I said, you'll have that, you'll have fish, you'll have other things, because I don't want you to be messed up. Now he has 2 sons, so I have to talk to my grandsons. And I have to let them know that. And I have to let them know that also, because it's the responsibility of the grandparents and the parents to make sure that their children are fed the right thing.
Right.
Thank God my grandchildren don't like snacks and they don't like junk. Thank God for that.
Right.
So as much as I can, I want to guide them that way. But I want to guide the public also. I want to let you know that you have a responsibility towards your children, towards the next generation. Because we are going to have a problem with the next generation, because a lot of men come to me and they cannot produce sperm. If you cannot produce sperm, you cannot have a child.
Correct.
And again, it comes back to what you're saying. The foods that they're eating is causing them to have a low level of sperm, a low level of testosterone. They're not being a male. There are a lot of men who have more breasts than women.
Yes.
Right? Why is that? We all have breast tissue, male and female, but your breast is developing more than your chest, the muscle. So that should tell you something. I look at guys when they wear t-shirts and whatnot, and you can see breasts. And I know they're having a sexual problem, but they're not going to address it because they want to feel they're macho. They wear a tight t-shirt, and you can see that they have breasts instead of a chest.
Right.
But obviously, if you have breasts instead of a chest, you are having problems sexually. And in the reverse is for women. A lot of women are not developing fully as a woman. And they want to know why. They want to know why they don't have that drive, that feeling. They don't want to know why they can't have an orgasm or why they don't feel in a particular way, because of changes that are taking place in your body. The foods that you're feeding yourself with is not to your betterment, it is to your detriment.
Yeah. Correct. So I think maybe on one of your segments, you could do a recommended diet for some people depending on the issues that they have.
The diet is very simple. Stay away. In Trinidad, we have something called a kurma. Kurma, if you know the ingredients in a kurma, that is what you stay away from when it comes to foods.
Okay.
Oil, flour, sugar.
Okay.
That's what kurma is made of. It's one of the most delicious snacks you could ever
Yes,
come
I
across.
love kurma.
Everybody loves kurma, right? Stay away from that. Junk food, fried foods, foods that are injected with hormones for it to grow and develop. Stay away from it. I'm not saying don't have it.
Yeah.
Have it in moderation, but have the foods that are more superly beneficial to you as opposed to those things. So yes, we'll do a program on that. We will definitely touch on that, but I want us to continue with your topic because your topic is of utmost importance.
It's the issue at hand. Next 10 years, everybody at that age group is going to be in their 40s, 50s. How do you treat with menopause? How do you treat with impotence? It's all the issues, prostate.
Well, I don't like to use the word impotence, because that's like a finality.
Yes.
Sexual dysfunction.
Sexual dysfunctions and whatnot.
Because when you tell a man, some men come to me and say, Doc, you're not impotent. I say, don't use that word. Because you already defeat yourself when you use that word. You're not impotent. You have a sexual dysfunction that we could fix. Let's go on to deal with that. Let's deal with your issues. Don't put that final word in there that you're impotent and you're unable to get an erection, unable to do things sexually. So that's one thing I want to warn the listeners out there. Do not use those negative words to describe yourself. Right?
Yes.
So, but getting back to your topic, being a hermaphrodite, persons having those feelings and experiences. Tell me some of your experiences.
My experiences? Well, you see, I didn't understand anything fully until somebody heard me making a joke. Growing up, people will say, that is a little tomboy.
Yeah.
She liked to play with them boys.
She more boy than girl. Yeah.
Right. that's what they used to always say about me and some of my other cousins. Or on the boy side, they'll say he's a little fruity. On the feminine side, he loves ladies things.
Like to dress up like a lady or walk like a lady, put on his mother's shoes.
Everybody used to associate it with being either lesbian
or gay.
Or homosexual. Nobody ever stopped to think maybe the child preferences to certain things has to do with her genetic makeup or her biological makeup.
So, not to cut you across, so there are other members of your family who have similar traits?
Not sure as yet.
Not sure.
A relative of mine, a male, has an extra nipple, right? And then there are other people with different subtle, things to them, who has breasts, ladies who have mustache, kind of thing. So somebody did some research and they found out that we were having a particular product in my mother's era. And that particular product had a brine in it that was causing symptoms of hermaphrodism. So people who were pregnant, the children.
What product that was?
I don't want to say it because I don't want to put the company and distributor on an international network, but my family abroad had investigated it and they found it to be true. Apparently, they put the wrong brine in that particular product, and for parents who were pregnant at that time, their children were born, for example, the male penis had the head of it had the slit of a vagina. Yes. Men had breasts, girls had extra penises, sometimes
clitoris.
5 millimeters long. So they would say it's a clitoris, but it was
actually a penis, yeah.
Right, well, so it's subtle and tiny.
Yeah.
Right, so for all those who were born in my era have those small traits to them and would pass it off as, something else.
And this is you're talking about 40 years ago?
This is about 40 years ago.
Right, so could you imagine you're not unique to that? There are persons who are between the ages of, let's say, 35 to 45 who would have that experience, and they're out there.
They're out there. And people have reached out to me. They wanted me to know their issues. Some of them way more, developed. They found out by accident because I made a joke with someone and the particular person took it very seriously. He pulled in a medical team and whatnot, and they took a micro camera, had it inserted in me, and that's when they found out that all I have is they said it was about 5 or 6 inches, a very thin utria, which is almost the size of a capillary.
Right, so it's a second utria.
So look at the size. A capillary is a smaller version of
minuscule.
A vein. Right, and it's that small. So it would explain why the attraction to female physiques and whatnot, but at the same time...
But it wasn't a sexual attraction.
Yeah.
It was?
Yeah, sexually attracted to girls. Now, I'm not a lesbian, I'm making that clear. I have nothing against lesbians, but personally, this is my choice. I am heterosexual. And when I saw females growing up, I would be attracted to them. Their shape, their hair, their smell. But I didn't understand why. Then later on in life, I understand why, and that just put everything into perspective, right? It's because of that aspect to me that I was attracted to females, which would make people, especially if you're with a group of girls and they're all heterosexual, it will reek off that weirdness,
Yeah, that she weird. She's weird. She overly touchy, or she just looks at us in a strange way.
Right. So, so all of that was the awkwardness growing up, which had me a lot more reserved than most girls. So even though I would play sports or be involved in things,
you'll keep
emotionally, mentally, physically, I would distance myself, go to the library, isolate, right? So that wasn't healthy. School is the best place to make friends and to interact.
Correct. And you make friends for life. But this is part 1. We have reached the end of this segment. I'm sure about it. My director is flashing me all kind of signs. So we'll keep that discussion for part 2.
Right.
All right? So guys, until part 2.